Hey everybody, it's time for a layout update. My Facebook group, the Sioux St. Paul line, has grown to just under 200 members. Thank you everybody, welcome to the new folks. And I didn't make a general announcement, but about a month ago I set up a YouTube channel, also called the Sioux St. Paul line. And what I'm doing there basically is just archiving these video updates, which I'm doing about every other month. So what I've got for you on this one is, thought I might do a little recap of what I'm trying to do down here in this layout room, especially for the new folks. We'll then do a update of the layout, which is kind of the main purpose of doing these. Then I'm also going to tack on at the end a little bit of info about homosode spline, which I've done some of now, and I think learned a couple lessons. And then finally, a few thoughts about track modeling. So stick around for any of that or don't. It's nice to see you here now. And again, thanks especially to the new folks for joining the fun. Okay, so for the new folks, what I'm doing here is I'm building a second version of HO layout staged in 1959 and based on the Sioux line operations on the St. Paul line, which went from Cardigan Junction south to 7th Street, and including, which will be the upper level I haven't started on yet, but the upper level will include some portions of the double track main that existed between Shoreham and Cardigan. And the emphasis is on transfers and on local switching. It's going to be possible to have a couple of short runs of short mainline trains on the upper level. We'll probably do that. Couple of shortish passenger trains made appearances on these rails. We'll run those. But most of the action is in what you might call last mile railroading, moving stuff around within yards and transfers and getting stuff between this small facility in St. Paul and the much, much larger Shoreham yard in Minneapolis. This is the second version. My first version of this layout I had to tear down in 2014. It was about 90% operational at that point, and we had been doing monthly operation sessions, which I was really, really enjoying and had a regular group of people who kept coming back, so must have been okay for them. And my long-term goal is to get back to that point with this layout. We'll talk a lot more about operations in future updates, I'm sure. So let's talk about where I'm at with my layout. With the change in weather to winter now, I'm doing much, much less work with power tools, which I prefer to do outside because I don't have much of a dust collection system and don't really need one. Doing things like laying track. So as of now, the lower level, which again is the St. Paul line between Cardigan Junction and this location, which is 7th Street Yard, the lower level bench work is complete and sub road bed, flat homosode sheets over plywood here, and then you can kind of see in the distance more and coming through here in the non-yard areas, it's homosode spline. So this was my hope, was to get to this point before the winter turned here, and I managed to do it just in time. The most noticeable change since the last update is in this area, which represents the trackage between 7th Street Yard and Jessamine. The prototype of the Sioux had to burrow under a hill at this point. They had a 1,380-foot long tunnel, passing under what most people out there in the world refer to as Williams Hill, but for some reason, the rail histories of the area that I've read almost unfailingly call it Bunker Hill. I like to call it Williams Hill, but people may know it as Bunker Hill. The Sioux built this tunnel in 1909. It had a couple of unusual portals I'll give you a close-up of in a second. And in addition to the tunnel, there was this ridiculous grade coming from Jessamine, which is in our foreground, went upgrade to the top of the track edge on Williams Hill. Some people have said that prototype grade may have been 5%, which is, kind of mind-blowing. My model of it does have a peak grade of a few feet of 5% grade. So this will be a fun little part for operations and also an interesting scenic spot. I'll take you around now so you can see the tunnel portals in a bit more detail. The north tunnel portal looked like this. And the method of construction of this first little bit of the Sue's Tunnel followed the way that the Northern Pacific built their tunnels under this hill, which was basically to carve out a ditch and then recreate a roof over the ditch to create the tunnel. The Sioux did that for this short bit of stretch, the northernmost part of the tunnel, but most of the Sioux's tunnel was unlike the NP's in that they actually had to burrow under the hill, which contained the Great Northern trackage. So they were digging a tunnel just a few feet below the Great Northern trackage when they were building this. So yeah, that's the north tunnel portal. The track here that you see here, this is the CMO. There will be a little plate girder bridge going over Sioux trackage there. The real tunnel is 1,300 feet long. Mine is much, much shorter. Here is the south tunnel portal where the trains leave or enter 7th Street Yard and going in and out of this portal. That railing has an interesting history. I forgot the exact name for it, National Railing something. I can look it up. But it was present on this tunnel portal, also on the nearby Lafayette Avenue highway bridge. And I simply had to have that railing to get it done right. So early in the days of 3D printing, I taught myself how to do that and printed these railings on the now defunct website called Shapeways. That's it for the update. I'm going to keep that short this time so I have a little time.